merged together now. Let's go and read something else here. Thus you had what? The Holy Roman Empire. Not just the Roman Empire anymore, but the Holy Roman Empire. Let's read something else from history here. Let's go to Funk and Wagner's Encyclopedia, and we're going to read this time from page 421. Read what's underlined in red. Read what's underlined in red. Give us the subtitle.
Okay. Holy Roman Empire.
Not just Roman Empire anymore. Holy Roman Empire now, because there's been a merger. You know, it was just a secular government. But now after the merging, it was the Holy Roman Empire. You got the religious side and you have the secular side. Go ahead and read on.
A political entity in Western Europe from 800 to 1806. It was initially known as the Empire in the West. In the 11th century,
it was initially known as the Empire in the West, or Western Europe as it's known today. Go ahead and read on.
In the 11th century, it was called the Roman Empire. And in the 12th century, the Holy Roman Empire.
Go ahead.
Okay, background. The Holy Roman Empire was an attempt to revive the Western Roman Empire.
It was you know what revive means? To resurrect, to bring back to life. Then it said a deadly wound was inflicted and that deadly wound was healed. It hasn't been healed yet, but there was when they merged together, that was an attempt to bring it back to life. Because it said a deadly, and it will be healed. But that's when the healing process started. When they merged together, it was an attempt to resurrect the Roman Empire. Go ahead and read on.
Which has ceased to exist after barbarians removed the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, in 476.
Well, he said, see what it said? That has ceased to exist after 476 AD. So after 476 AD, they merged together in an attempt to resurrect it, to bring it back to life. Because it said that deadly wound was healed, right? Well, the deadly wound hadn't been healed yet, but that's when the attempt started. That's when the process began, them trying to resurrect it, to bring it back to life, heal that deadly wound. Go ahead and read on.
During the turbulent dark ages, the traditional concept of a temporal realm coextensive with the spiritual realm.
What a temporal realm? That means a secular government, as we read earlier, merged with a spiritual realm. Go ahead and read. A religious government. Go ahead and read.
Of a temporal realm coextensive with the spiritual realm of the church had been kept alive by the popes in Rome.
See, that's how they managed to keep Rome going. They managed to keep it going through the religion. You know, the secular government, it was gone. So they merged together in an attempt to revive it and to keep it alive. Go ahead and read on.
The Byzantine Empire, heir of the Eastern Roman Empire, retained nominal sovereignty over the territories formerly controlled by the Western Empire.
So, really you got East, West, Roman Empire, and you had a Western as well. We are dealing with the Western here. Let's go now to Revelation chapter 13. We're going to begin reading at verse 11. We're going to pick it up here. We just looked at the merger. We looked at it through history. The merging of the religious government along with the secular government, and we looked at it through history. Now we're going to look at it through the Bible. Because the Bible told us about it as well. Let's go to Revelation chapter 13, and this time we will pick it up at verse 11. Revelation 13, we'll begin reading at verse 11. 13 and 11. So now, after the merging together, you had a whole different type beast here. You had one type beast that was simply a secular government. Then after the merging, you had a religious government as well. Then you had a religious government merged with a secular government. So now you got a whole different type beast here. It was all about the secular rulership initially. Now after they merged together, then it was about a religious government and a secular government. Now you're looking at a whole different kind of beast here. Start reading at verse 11, brother. Go ahead and read.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
And what do these two horns represent? They represent these two governments. They represent the secular government and the religious government. He had two horns like a lamb, and notice what it says, he spake as a dragon. In other words, the doctrine that he came with, it was the doctrine of Satan and not the doctrine of God. Because it said that the dragon gave him his power, seat, and great authority, didn't it? So now the message that he came with was not the message of God, it was the message of Satan. So now when he opened, you're looking at how he looked, but then when he opened his mouth, he spake like a dragon. Who is the dragon? That is the devil, isn't it? Everybody looking at how he looked. He looked real pious, don't it? No, listen at the words that are coming out of his mouth. All of the words that are coming out of his mouth, they are the words of the dragon and not the words of God. Go ahead and read on.
And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him.
And he exercised all the power of the first beast before. All that stuff that they gave you, it came from the first beast. Where did Christmas come from? It was Santeria, wasn't it? You understand what I'm telling you?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they called it under the old Roman Empire. But then when they married together, they said, we ain't going to call it that no more. Now we're going to call it Christ's Mass. But it's the same old mess. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? It ain't got nothing to do with Jesus at all. What did Christmas have to do with Jesus? Nothing. Where did it come from? It came from that old Roman doctrine, the Santralia, dealing with another God. Or sun worship, not S-O-N son, S-U-N son. Mm-hmm. Same old mess. Read it again.
And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him.
Go ahead.
And causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast.
That's what you're worshiping. You're worshiping the first beast. When you worship the doctrine that have been given you by the Roman Catholic Church, you are worshiping the first beast. We ain't gonna call it the winter solstice anymore. Right. Like the first beast called it, we will call it Christmas now. We ain't gonna call it the worship of Astarte anymore. We are going to call it Easter and tell you that Jesus rose from the dead on that day. But when you worship it, you are worshiping the first beast. Amen. Same old doctrine that the first beast came with, that's the same doctrine that the second beast gave you. Mm-hmm. They just changed the name. Same old stuff. Poison by any other name will kill you just as dead. I can put it in some soda pop and say, man, this is Coca-Cola here. Taste it. It's real good. It will kill you just as dead. Amen. Mm-hmm. And that's what they have done. They have given you that same old poison with a different label on it. Amen. I'm going to relabel the thing and give you that same old poison. That's all they have done. Go ahead and read some more.
Whose deadly wound was healed.
Now he said when will this deadly wound be healed? The attempt was started back after 476 AD when they merged with the Catholic Church. Didn't we read that out of history?
Yes, sir.
That's when they attempted to revive it. But now it will be revived. And when will it be revived? Just before the coming of the Lord. Because it's got to be in power when the Lord comes. Finally, the deadly wound was healed. And all of the world wanted out to be. What verse up?
Verse 13.
Go ahead and read.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Now, let's go over to Revelation chapter 19 now, and we'll pick it up at verse 11. Revelation 19, and we'll begin reading at verse 11. 19 and 11. 19 and 11. Because you had the two horns here, right? Mm-hmm. Let's pick it up at chapter 19 and verse 11. And it said the deadly wound was healed and all of the world wanted after the beast, right? Mm-hmm. What you're reading about here is the coming of the Lord. Start reading at verse 11. Go ahead and read.
And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True.
Now, I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that Rome got to be in power at the coming of the Lord. Don't lose sight of that. Rome must be in power at the coming of the Lord, because the Lord gave Daniel the interpretation